I studied English for 5 years. 5 years of grammar books, 5 years of vocabulary notebooks, 5 years of listening practice, 5 years of YouTube videos, 5 years of English teachers telling me your English is improving. And honestly, I believed them because my grades were good, I understood movies with subtitles, I could read articles, I knew difficult words. I even helped my classmates sometimes. So I thought, maybe my English is finally good. But one day, I met a native English speaker in real life, and he asked me one simple question. So, what do you do? And suddenly, my brain stopped working. I understood every word, but I could not answer. Not naturally, not confidently, not smoothly. I froze. And in that moment, I realized something painful. After 5 years of studying English, I still could not speak English.
And honestly, millions of English learners feel exactly the same way. Maybe that includes you. You study, you memorize, you practice grammar, you watch videos, you learn vocabulary. But when real conversation happens, your confidence disappears. Not because you are stupid, not because your memory is bad, not because you are incapable of learning, but because most people are taught English the wrong way. Today, Sarah and I are going to talk about why this happens, what changed everything for us, and how you can finally start speaking English more naturally, slowly, clearly, like real people. This is English Tempo. Let's begin.
Sarah, I think one of the hardest things about learning English is not grammar. It's the emotional feeling. That feeling when you know the language in your head, but suddenly cannot use it. Did you experience that often?
All the time. And honestly, it made me feel embarrassed because people around me thought my English was good. My teachers thought so. My classmates thought so. Even my family thought so. But inside, I knew something was wrong because every time I had a real conversation, I became nervous immediately.
What happened in your mind during those moments?
Everything became slow, very slow. I would hear the sentence, then translate it, then think about grammar, then search for vocabulary, then worry about pronunciation, then panic, and by the time I was ready to answer, the conversation had already moved on.
That is such a common experience, and I think many learners blame themselves for it. They think, maybe I'm bad at languages. But usually, that is not true. Usually the problem is the method.
Exactly, because schools often teach English like mathematics. They teach rules, structure, perfection, but conversation does not work like that. Real conversation is fast, emotional, messy, natural. People interrupt each other. People forget words. People change sentences halfway through speaking. Native speakers do this constantly, but learners think they must sound perfect, and that pressure destroys fluency.
I remember one specific moment years ago. I was speaking English with a group of people, and somebody asked me a simple question, not a difficult question, not academic, just normal conversation. And suddenly, I forgot the word decision, completely forgot it. My brain went empty, and I felt stupid.
That feeling is horrible, especially because when we forget words in our native language, we laugh. But when we forget words in English, we feel ashamed.
That's true. And I think social media made this worse because online, people only show perfect English, perfect pronunciation, perfect confidence, perfect communication. So learners think fluent people never struggle. But that's completely false. Even native speakers pause, repeat themselves, restart sentences, forget vocabulary, and make mistakes. Conversation is not perfection. Conversation is communication.
And honestly, that realization changed my life, because for years I believed fluency meant speaking fast, using difficult words, and sounding intelligent all the time. But real fluency is much simpler. Real fluency means being comfortable expressing yourself. That's all.
So, Sarah, what do you think is the biggest mistake learners make?
Honestly, I think the biggest mistake is this. People spend too much time studying English and not enough time using English.
That sounds simple, but it's extremely important. Explain what you mean.
Okay, imagine somebody wants to learn swimming, but instead of entering the water, they only read books about swimming, watch videos about swimming, study swimming techniques. Would they become comfortable in the water? Of course not, because skills are built through experience, and English is exactly the same. You cannot become comfortable speaking without speaking.
That sounds obvious, but so many learners avoid speaking. Why do you think that happens?
Fear. Mostly fear. Fear of mistakes, fear of embarrassment, fear of judgment, fear of sounding stupid. And because of that fear, people stay inside the safe zone. They watch videos, read grammar, study vocabulary, but they avoid real communication.
And the problem is, confidence only grows through uncomfortable experiences.
Exactly. Confidence is not something you magically receive one day. Confidence is built slowly, one awkward conversation at a time.
That reminds me of something important. I think many learners believe this lie. One day, I'll finally feel ready to speak. But honestly, that day never arrives.
Never, because confidence comes from speaking, not before speaking. That sentence changed everything for me. For years, I waited. I thought, maybe after another grammar course, maybe after another vocabulary book, maybe after another year. But eventually, I realized I was preparing forever without actually living the language.
And that's the difference. At some point, you must stop preparing and start communicating, even imperfectly.
Especially imperfectly, because mistakes are part of fluency. Children make thousands of mistakes while learning language, but adults expect themselves to sound perfect immediately. That expectation creates pressure, and pressure blocks fluency.
I think this is one of the biggest emotional problems in English learning. People are not only learning a language, they are protecting their identity. Nobody wants to sound less intelligent. Nobody wants to feel embarrassed. Nobody wants to feel slow. So many learners become silent, not because they know nothing, but because they care too much.
That is so true. And honestly, one embarrassing moment can make somebody avoid speaking for months. I know people who stopped practicing completely because somebody laughed at their pronunciation.
That's sad, because pronunciation mistakes are normal. Communication matters more. If people understand you, then the conversation is already successful. So, Sarah, when did English finally start feeling natural for you? Was there one moment?
Yes, actually, there was. And surprisingly, it happened when I stopped studying grammar all day.
Interesting. What happened exactly?
I started listening to real conversations every day, not educational conversations, not textbook dialogues, real people talking naturally. At first, it felt difficult, very difficult. Native speakers sounded too fast, too connected, too relaxed. But slowly, my brain started recognizing patterns, and that changed everything.
Patterns are extremely important because fluent speakers are not building sentences word by word. They remember chunks, expressions, repeated structures. That's why fluent speech feels automatic.
Exactly. For example, instead of translating every word individually, I started recognizing complete phrases. Things like, to be honest, at the end of the day, you know what I mean? I'm not really sure. That makes sense. And once those phrases became automatic, conversation became easier.
Because real communication is built from patterns, not isolated vocabulary.
Exactly. And honestly, that was the first time English stopped feeling like school. It started feeling alive.
That's such a powerful description, because many learners feel emotionally disconnected from English. To them, English feels like exams, grades, stress, homework, correction, not communication.
Yes, but language is emotional. You remember words better when they are connected to stories, experiences, humor, people, embarrassment, excitement. That's how the brain naturally learns.
I experienced this too. I noticed that I remembered phrases from movies much more easily than phrases from vocabulary books, because movies create emotion, and emotion creates memory.
Exactly. That's why boring study methods fail for so many people. Your brain needs repetition, emotion, context, and real usage, not just information.
Okay, Sarah, let's become practical. Imagine somebody listening right now feels completely stuck. What are the exact things they should start doing?
Okay, these are the 5 things that changed my English the most. Number 1, I stopped translating everything.
That's huge. Translation slows conversation down dramatically.
Exactly. At first it feels impossible, but slowly your brain adapts. The goal is not perfect understanding, the goal is direct understanding.
What was the second thing?
Listening daily, not occasionally, daily. Even short listening sessions matter. Consistency changes the brain more than intensity.
That's true in almost every skill. Small daily practice beats huge random practice.
Exactly. The third thing, I started speaking before feeling ready. This was terrifying, but honestly, it changed my confidence faster than anything else.
Because action creates confidence, not preparation.
Yes. The fourth thing, I stopped trying to sound advanced. I focused on sounding clear. This was a huge breakthrough. Simple English spoken confidently is far more powerful than complicated English spoken nervously.
That is such an important point. Many learners believe advanced vocabulary equals fluency, but clarity is more important.
Exactly. And the fifth thing, I found English content I genuinely enjoyed. This changed everything because once English becomes enjoyable, practice stops feeling painful.
That's why people improve faster when learning through stories, podcasts, movies, conversations, interesting topics. The brain pays attention when it cares.
Exactly. If you hate the learning process, you won't continue long enough to become fluent. Enjoyment matters.
I think many people misunderstand the real purpose of English. They think fluency means perfect pronunciation, 0 mistakes, sounding American, speaking fast. But honestly, I don't think that's true.
I agree. The real purpose of English is freedom. Freedom to travel, communicate, work internationally, express your personality, understand the world, and connect with people. That's the real goal, not perfection.
And honestly, some of the most successful people in the world speak imperfect English, but they communicate confidently. That confidence changes everything.
Exactly. Confidence makes mistakes feel smaller. Fear makes mistakes feel enormous.
That's powerful, and I think many learners need to hear this. You do not need perfect English to start speaking. You improve by speaking, not before speaking.
And if you remember only one thing from today's conversation, remember this. You are not failing because you are bad at English. You are struggling because language is a skill, and skills are built through repetition, emotion, mistakes, patience, and real experience.
Now let's practice together. Repeat each sentence slowly after us. No pressure, no perfection, just practice.
My mind went blank.
Confidence comes from speaking.
I stopped waiting to feel ready.
Conversation is communication.
Mistakes help me improve.
I can speak English imperfectly and still communicate.
Small daily practice changes the brain.
I am becoming more comfortable every day.
If this conversation helped you today, remember, you are not alone. Millions of English learners feel exactly the same fear.
And fluency is not magic. It is built slowly, one conversation at a time.
This is English Tempo. Real conversations, real pace, real progress.